Hey facilities people, this is something that is pretty classic. Got a blinking ORP, meaning that most likely the free chlorine is pretty low, and you look at the free chlorine and it looks to be about 2.6, so that isn't great. Don't really want it to drop below 3. If I left it alone and did nothing, this thing would climb a little bit, but the very next night it would be a little bit worse. And so we're really going to nip this in the bud. And another thing which you're going to typically see when this is going on is you're going to see around like a 1.5 on your inlet flow. So chances are this means that we've got a little bit of an outlet problem. So we're going to go ahead and clean that outlet, which has a video. And we're also going to check a bunch of other values just to make sure that it's not a couple other things. One thing we're always going to check is to make sure the flow is decent. Absolutely great flow right there. So that leads me even more to believe that it's most likely some sort of clogged outlet. And you can see when I first turn that thing on, that thing shoots to about 1.8. It will probably come down to about 1.6, 1.7. But all is good. So I let this go for a little bit after I cleaned it, and yeah, it's looking like it's looking a little bit better, around 1.6, maybe close to 1.7. Next thing we're gonna do, just because it is below 3 parts per million for the chlorine, is I'm gonna do kind of a mini shock. Usually when I do these, I kind of shock up to 6. Technically, it probably wouldn't hurt to shock up to 10 like we would normally do on a Sunday night. I'm just a little concerned about the calcium levels getting a little high in the pool, and there's a couple of things that could be affected by that. So I also added a little bit of descaler just to help with that kind of separate problem. This is definitely something though that is going to require just a little bit of an assist from us adding granular chlorine, just kind of help out that autochlorinator a little bit. One thing that I've started doing anytime I do one of these little mini shocks, or even one of the normal 10 parts per million shocks, is I actually turn off both the pH and the ORP. Of course, if you do this, you just have to remember that first thing in the morning, you come back and turn it back on. And I would really suggest first thing in the morning, especially if you have like really low stabilizer, and this is a problem that you confront with this really low chlorine. If that stabilizer is really, really low, and you don't come in the morning to turn it on when the sun comes out, it really does become a big problem. Luckily, our cyanuric acid is fairly high, so really is not going to be a huge deal if I don't get over here first thing in the morning, but I definitely suggest the sooner the better. Another thing that you want to at least consider is to test the alkalinity and also the cyanuric acid concentration. Those values don't look too bad, but sometimes you kind of end up chasing your tail unless you establish first the alkalinity and then the cyanuric acid. So honestly, that value at 90 parts per million for alkalinity is just about 10 parts per million away from what we really like to see. And right around 30 for CYA. It was a little bit less than that. So both of these we could definitely add a little bit, but they're not totally out of whack. So this is something that I'm just going to do over the next couple of days. First, I'll probably treat the alkalinity, and then I'll add stabilizer to the pool. And then we should be tip-top for at least another week. Morning. Just remember to turn on both the ORP and the pH. And there you can see that overnight that value came up to 584. pH wasn't really that affected. It was just a small shock. Chlorine is just about 4.2 parts per million. Probably you're going to want to do, or I am going to do, just a little bit of stabilizer addition, just to make sure that it stays right around that value as of course the day goes on and as the sun comes out. It'll probably drop a little bit. The sooner you do the stabilizer, the sooner you won't have to go through this whole process again.